second chance in the game.
Hey coaches, I'm Daniel McDonald, defensive coordinator at Louisville Male High School. Excited to be working for Chief Pigskin today. Just a little bit about myself. I started coaching when I was 21 years old. I was a defensive backs coach at a school called Bullitt East High School. It's a suburb of Louisville. After that, I was the head coach at Wagner High School. I was the youngest head coach in the history of Kentucky football. Got into the job, excited to go back to my alma mater. Didn't quite know what I didn't know. I didn't understand the business side of running a football program. I needed to let some grass grow under my feet. So I went to a 6A school called Seneca High School. I was the offensive coordinator there. I was there for 3 years, and then 3 years ago I hooked up with Coach Wolf, and now I'm at Male High School. Very fortunate to be here. We have a fantastic administration that really supports sports in general at our school, and we're very fortunate to have great kids. We have kids who they know why they're in school. They make good grades. They're smart kids, and they want to win football. They know what it takes to win football games. They work hard. They do the right things. They take care of their bodies. And we're blessed with numbers as well. We have over 100 kids in our program, so we're able to two-platoon. We have kids who are predominantly defense, guys who are predominantly offense. So we are fortunate in that we can install a little bit more than a lot of our competition. So today, my first presentation, I'm going to talk about the boundary corner pressure. This is a very good blitz for us, a very good pressure rather for us. We averaged, when we ran it last year, teams averaged maybe 1.5 yards to 2 yards against it. It's a good run blitz for us. It's also a good pass pressure. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is a little bit of an overview of our defense. You've probably seen Coach Wolf's videos, my head coach. He talks a little bit about our 4-2-5. He goes more in depth than I will. But we're a base 4-2-5. We've played around with the 3-4 a little bit, but we are base 4-2-5. It just works better for our personnel and our scheme. On defense, our philosophy is we want 11 guys to the ball every time. We emphasize that in practice. Every drill we do, every team drill we do, 11 guys better be at that ball every time. We run a lot of different coverages. Like I said, we're blessed with a lot of players, a lot of good football players. We run a little bit of everything. We run anything from 2-read, 4-read, some robber, match quarters, full field coverages, everything. Even some coaches call it X special. We run a little bit of that as well. So we're able to get pretty good at a lot of different stuff. But we're able to disguise everything, and that's going to be a focus point for us coming up this next football season, is making sure that we're disguising everything. We want everything to look the same. Similar to a lot of 4-2-5 teams, we believe in squeezing it, spilling it, and then pursuing to it. Our defensive line is going to step into the offensive line. They're going to lock out their hands. They're going to they're going to create a new line of scrimmage. We're going to squeeze everything, bounce everything outside, run it down. Our blitzes and pressures are all packaged together, and all of our blitzes and pressures fit our personnel. Every blitz has at least one complement and an illusion. So as I talk about this boundary corner pressure, here's what I want to talk about. I'm going to give you a rundown. First, I'm going to talk about why we run it. I'm going to talk about our key components and coaching points. So if you want to take this blitz, steal this blitz, the focal points of the blitz, what you want to make sure you install first. And then I'm going to talk about our illusion off of the blitz. Then we'll get into film as well. All right, so why we run it. As you can see in the diagram, from the stem to the ball, that's a short distance for our best athlete. Our best, fastest corner is unblocked to the ball. We can disguise this pressure until the very last second. Running a lot of split field coverages and disguising this, we're able to disguise it or mask it until the very last second when he starts his stem. Like I said earlier, it's a very safe, effective pass rush for us. Even though we're only bringing 5, a lot of teams struggle to block that corner off the edge. What really helps us is it gives us a +1 against the run. A lot of teams struggle to block it. A lot of teams and a lot of coordinators don't account for that guy coming off the edge. And with us overplaying the field, moving our nickel to the field, we're not necessarily weak to the boundary, but it can be a vulnerability. So using this pressure on first and second down and run downs is a good answer to teams that run into the boundary. So here are your main key points, key components, key coaching points for this blitz. The first thing you want to make sure you want to cover is your boundary corner stem and attack point. Second, you want to talk about your bandit spike technique. We're going to talk about our tackle's movement. And we're going to talk about our rover's coverage angle. Now, obviously, to the field, there's a lot more stuff we need to cover, but these are just the main components for the blitz to work and get pressure. As you can see, we're going to roll a cover 3 behind it with our rover, our free safety, and our field corner. But we're not really playing a straight zone. We're doing a little bit of pattern matching with this. All right, so the boundary corner stem and attack point. What you're going to see on film here in a little bit is our boundary corner doesn't always stem, but we prefer that he does. Anytime we can shorten that distance and cut down on that distance is good for us. And as you'll see on film as well, that ex-receiver can't block him. We like for him to stem laterally with his shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage. His attack point is the heels of the running back or deepest back. And if he reads run at him, he's going to flatten and squeeze. We want to make sure we close that distance down. We don't want him to overrun any run at him. We don't want him to create an extra gap. We want him to squeeze that gap down, keep everything on his inside shoulder, keep that running back on his inside shoulder, hopefully make the play in the backfield. Crucial coaching point here, crucial coaching point. And if I have time, I'll show you the clip I'm talking about. But we got hurt a little bit on this. We didn't emphasize enough that he is the BCR guy on any action away. He's covering bootleg, counter, or reverse, any action away. It came back and bit us one play last season. The next coaching point or the next install point is our bandit spike technique. We usually align our bandit in a standing 5. He's kind of a hybrid defensive end, linebacker type of guy. Just as a reference point, that's usually one of our best players, if not our best player. We like our guys there to be tall, longer, more athletic, because they got a lot of responsibility in our defense. They have to be able to take on an offensive tackle, but they also need to be a good pass rush guy, and they also need to be able to drop into some pass zones for us. So he's truly got to be a hybrid D-end slash linebacker type of guy. What we do with a lot of our defense is we give our guys freedom to play with their alignment a little bit. We want our guys to go out and play fast, play loose, and be athletes. So within a certain frame, within some boundaries, we let this guy play around with his alignment a little bit. When he spikes on this blitz, he has a hi-hat, low-hat read. If he reads hi-hat, this gives him more freedom on his move. He's able to be an athlete. So if he reads vertical set or simply just a kick step, especially against the vertical set, he can give an outside fake and then spike underneath. He's going to want to rip through that tackle's inside shoulder, and he has to make that tackle turn his hips and shoulders. We've got to be able to get that tackle to turn inside so that our corner has a free path to the quarterback. If he doesn't make that tackle turn his hips and shoulders, then he should be the one getting the sack or making the play on the ball. Versus a 6-man protection, we need him to beat the tackle and occupy the running back. Like I said, we've got to give that corner as much free space as possible. We've got to give him a free path to get to that quarterback. Otherwise, we're almost wasting a blitz. If he reads low hat, he has to close that B gap for us. And there are 2 techniques he can use. He can either spike or he can crash to close that B gap down for us. And I'll talk about those 2 techniques and the difference between them here in just a second. Spike versus crash technique, if he gets a low hat read. So he's going to spike when he reads low hat and he has beaten the tackle with his first and second steps. He's going to cross face into that B gap without getting washed. He's going to rip, stay low. He wants to work back to parallel. Okay, we can't have him getting washed because then he opens up a new gap for us. He's got to be able to be athletic enough to rip underneath that tackle's armpit, rip across his face, stay low on his hip, and then stay parallel. Anchor his step down, anchor his foot down, close that gap for us, and make a play. The crash technique, if he doesn't beat the tackle across his face, all is not lost. He can still make a play. If he gets movement away, so a stretch away from him, or he's not able to squeeze that tackle, and the tackle gets away, he can still crash. He's going to do what we call go back door. He's going to get to the tackle's B gap hip. And he has no contained responsibility here. So he can go back door, he can squeeze down, he can even turn his shoulders if he needs to, but he's got to close that B gap for us. And he wants to get across that tackle's B gap hip. He's free to crash inside and make a play for us. But he wants to stay laterally down the line. He doesn't want to get upfield. He gets upfield, he opens up a new gap. Next thing I want to talk about is our tackle's movement. Crucial point of this blitz is making sure our tackle gets good movement. If he doesn't move to where he's got to be, we have two guys in one gap. That's a recipe for disaster. We teach him to stay square. If you can see in the picture there, he's got to stay square through this movement. If he turns his shoulder, as strong as most guards are, he's getting washed, opening up a new gap for us. So he has to stay square. He has to hit that guard with his hands. He has to lock him out, keep his shoulders and hips square, and pull into that A gap for us. Like I said, he needs to get his head into that A gap. He has to close A gap. He has to occupy and move that guard without getting washed. Again, getting washed is about the worst thing that can happen for us because he's now opening up a new gap that we have to fill. Like the bandit, if he reads run away, if he reads center away, he's running the heel line. Any action away, he needs to get laterally down that heel line. You're going to want to talk about the rover's coverage angle. Our rover should have a minimal stem, if any at all. We don't want to open up any new passing lanes with his stem. We don't want to give away any hot reads with his stem. Contrary to popular belief, we don't want our angle over the top. We want him downhill or flat. It's even better if he can get a little bit downhill. Our rover is going to be athletic enough to where if he gets slightly downhill, but that receiver keeps pushing vertical, he can collision his hip and keep running with him. But we want to try to take away that hot throw as much as possible. So we want our rover downhill. Like I said a second ago, versus a 3-by-1 set, if he reads a vertical route, he'll collision that hip of the wide receiver and run with him. Now versus 2-by-2, he has to midpoint two verticals. So if we get a 4 vertical look or 2 verticals, he needs to make sure he's midpointing those 2 verticals. He can lean on the inside vertical and be able to react to the outside vertical, but he has to midpoint those. And then off of this blitz, we have an allusion to it. It's a good answer to teams reading hot. If you scout us at all, you know we run this blitz, this pressure. We've run it for several years now. Any team that scouted us knows this blitz is coming at some point. Our boundary corner is going to try to sell his stem. We want him to still be laterally down the line. You're going to see in the film, our guys like to, for whatever reason on the illusion, like to turn their hips and point to the guy. That doesn't really help us out much. That doesn't look like the pressure or the blitz. We're going to play a hard cover 2 behind it. What that does for us is it takes away or baits the hot read. That quarterback sees out of the corner of his eye that pressure coming. A lot of teams built in or have built in that hot throw. Quarterback's going to throw it right now. We want to try to bait that hot throw to a pick 6. And when we do this illusion, when we run this illusion, it still somewhat accomplishes what the blitz does because our corner becomes a hard force with inside leverage. So we still get our +1 unless that receiver is going to try to crack back on him, which if our corner runs this correctly may end up being a legal block in the back anyway. So we still have that hard force with inside leverage on the wide receiver. We still got our rover over top. and we still get our +1. So we can run the illusion and still get our +1 in the run game. All right, going to take us to some film now. First clip I want to look at is why this boundary, this bandit stem is so important. This was the first time we ran it last season in our scrimmage game. And you're going to see on the clip here, our corner has a clear path to this quarterback right now. They haven't accounted for him. Our tackle is, or the offensive tackle rather, is fully engaged with that bandit. This should be a sack. You can tell from their route stems they're trying to get something deep. We have crossers up top here. Looks to be a receiver pushing vertical here. So this should be a sack. It's looking like a 3 to 5 step drop. If our movement is right, we're getting a free hit on the quarterback. Unfortunately, our bandit doesn't spike, so our boundary corner now has to bubble out his route. He pushes into our corner's route. He has to bubble out. It gives the quarterback a free pocket to step up into, and they bailed us out here. This should have been a touchdown. They bail us out. Look at it from the tight angle. I mean, it plays into our favor. The offensive tackle actually quick sets on us, so we should be in the B gap right now. We even get the back protecting to the field side. So there is no one here to account for our corner. The back's eyes are to the field the entire time. We're playing 2-on-3 here. Playing 2-on-3, we should be able to get to him. But that one detail that we don't run correctly should have been a touchdown against us. See it from the back end real quick. Ignore our nose guard here. He didn't do his job correctly. But you see our tackle gets pretty good movement. If our bandit spikes off that quick set, he may even get the sack himself. We got lucky there. All right, this clip is good. It's going to show you how we get a +1 against a run game. This team did a good job against us trying to run into the boundary. Here they are, pro set, 2 backs, tight end into the boundary. So this is a good example of how our corner sees run at him and he flattens immediately. He's already flattened his route. He changed his aiming point from the heels to flatten down the line of scrimmage. Get a better view from it from the tight angle. Okay, not the best job by our tackle here. You see he kind of gets turned. He's trying to stay square. He doesn't do a good job of getting his hands on that guard for us. Because his movement is right now, that guard's able to take a step to his movement and wash him down. So it creates another gap for us. Fortunately, our mic is able to correct him, and the mic actually gets a pretty clear read off this. Better view from the back here. So our tackle ends up getting washed, which is widening that gap. However, our mic reads run right now. He fits up right inside of that fullback like he's supposed to. Our will fits up outside the fullback. That's a good run fit. Good run fit there. Even though the play didn't work right, our linebackers, because they're free, are able to fit up right on that. If our bandit were to spike correctly, and if our tailback, if our tackle were to get his correct movement, you'd see this ball would have to spill out to an unblocked corner for a loss. Still a good job there. All right, a lot of good happens on this play. You'll see our bandit here to the boundary. He does a really nice job here. He's going to be a player for us. Some college is going to get a steal on him because he does whatever we ask. He makes almost every play. I want you to notice our rover here. Our rover does a nice job. Ball snapped. His first step is downhill. He's closing that distance. If he reads vertical, you see him start to read vertical. He's going to collision this hip. but I like his movement first being downhill. If he were to read a hot read here or a hot throw hitch, he's downhill right now making a play. Our corner's attack point is really good here. You'll see you can almost draw a straight line from our corner where he's going to the back heels of this running back. Really good job here. All right, look at our bandit spike technique. Right into that B gap. He's getting washed a little bit, but that's because action's away. He sees action away from this guard. You'll be able to see it on the end zone film a little bit better. He sees action away from this guard and is starting to run heel line, but he's aware enough. He's reading pass right now and starts to climb back vertical. That's a good job there. Really good job. Just how you draw it up, everything worked. Sometimes athletes are really good athletes, though. This quarterback is about 240 pounds against our 160-pound defensive back. Not the best tackling here, obviously. We use the rugby tackling system from Atavis, a Seattle-based company. He's okay here if you look at our corner. He's okay right now, good inside leverage. He's got that ball on his inside shoulder. Outside leverage with the ball on his inside shoulder. Right there, he loses his footing a little bit, and his hips start to turn. So you'll see his hips turn, he loses all his force. We'd like for those hips to stay square and go straight into that ball carrier. You see our bandit recover, get vertical, come back to the quarterback. Wish we would have gotten him down. That would have been a big play for us. That would have been a loss of 7 or 8 yards. Fortunately, we got guys who relentlessly pursue the ball. Our Will's there. Our tackle's able to get himself back and help out on this play. A lot of stuff went right there. Same play from the end zone shot. The cameraman actually gets fooled here on this shot, but it's still a good look at our heel line technique. You'll see our tackle, right here, our tackle. His eyeballs right now, once he starts his movement, are on that center. So as that center is moving away, he's running heel line. So had they handed this ball off, they're not gaining any yards. We got all of our gaps filled. Our defensive end is out here on his escape route. Pretty good job there. All right, this is a good example of our rover getting downhill, our corner coming free. And they even have a 6-man protection here, and we're still free. Our rover's first step, if you look at it, isn't all that good. This receiver up top is pretty fast, so our rover didn't have a lot of confidence here in his own footwork. However, he's able to recover. See, that first step is back. We don't really want that. He's able to recover. He reads hot route right now, hot throw, puts his foot in the ground, sticks him as soon as the ball gets there. I want you to notice our Will here as well, our boundary linebacker. I'll put a shadow on him. We're looking at a pro set, 3 threats into the field, 2 threats to the boundary. So as our Will reads pass, his first key is that what becomes number 2, this running back here. If this running back stays in and blocks, our Will can get to the number 1 right now and help out on this throw. So as soon as he reads that block, he can turn his shoulders. He's finding number 1. This is good. He almost makes this play. Gets there to disrupt the catch right now. Tighter angle here. All right, I want you to notice our bandit's escape route. Not our bandit, our defensive end's escape route here. We teach this and we call it the escape route because if that quarterback sees that free man, he's going to try to escape right into our defensive end. When we install this early on, when we install the escape route, we teach our guy to over-exaggerate it. We want him to go extra wide. It's okay if he goes a gap wider. We want him to get extra wide. We don't want that quarterback escape and contain. Would like to see him throttle down a little bit more and not overrun that quarterback. You can see he gives a good alley here if that quarterback were to pull up. So I'd like to see him, once he gets parallel to the quarterback, to dip back inside of this tackle if he can. End zone shot, same play. We should get a good look at our tackles moving. He does a good job here. Tackle does a really nice job. You'll see that first step is lateral, and you can see his hands already getting engaged on that guard. That's good hand work. His base might be a little bit too wide. That step might be a little bit too long. He's a little bit off balance, and you see him get pushed back here in a second. But that movement now opens up that B gap for our bandit to spike. Good movement. He's got the guard fully engaged, gets him to turn his hips and his shoulders. Because he was a little bit wide on his feet, they now have leverage on him, and he gets pushed back a little bit. But he does his job. He takes up 2 blocks. Bandit spikes in for us. Good play there. All right, this play is a really good example of this spike technique. Our corner takes a good route here initially. He's got maybe 4 yards. Well, it's more like 6 yards between him and the quarterback. He's got a good angle right there on his back hip. If he stays on that line, he should get a sack. For whatever reason, he bounces this wide, though. As the quarterback steps up, he might have bounced it wide because the quarterback stepped up. But as that quarterback steps up, he needs to keep that quarterback on his left shoulder. He should have adjusted his route a little bit as that quarterback steps up. Granted, this is all happening within milliseconds, so we can't make every little adjustment. Now, you may look at our free safety here and wonder why he's playing flat-footed. Normally, he wouldn't. We'd be rolling back to the middle. A little bit of an illegal motion there. Maybe he's getting upfield too fast. They're not going to call that, though. But we scouted this play when we saw number 9 come in and their motion to the slot to become the new number 3, or the new number 2, rather. We knew they wanted to get him the ball right now. He only came in on offense, and he's a big-time player. He'll go to some Power 5 school. But we knew that when he came into the game, they were going to try to get him the ball. So they're running just a little vertical, flat concept with him. Our free safety knows that they're trying to get him the ball right now. So as he keeps closing distance, we backpedal a little bit, which is fine. You'll see our Mike does a good job opening up and taking that quick throw away. So they can't get the ball there right now like they want to. Mike takes that away. Good depth. Scouted the play out. Almost a pick. You get a lot of almost a picks when your free safety's 5'7". From the end zone shot, I want to show you our bandit spike technique again here. This guy does a really good job using leverage and speed. So you'll see the size difference. This offensive tackle is a Power 5 commit. He's going to a Big Ten school. Our bandit is 5'7", 5'8", 170 pounds. But because he's able to get this tackle to quick set, there he's set right now. His heels are in the ground. And give him that one little out step. He gives him that one little move outside, quick set right there. He's got him beat. He uses his quickness and his leverage. He rips underneath. He's down on his hip right now. That's a really good job. And he's able to get into that B gap for us. Now, this running back's attention, rather than being here where it should be, is now right here and right here. Really good job there. See the rip underneath, get down on his hip, got him beat. I want to highlight our tackle too. He does a nice job. You see him staying square. I'd like for him to get the hands on the guard a little bit quicker than that. Shoot the hands and then go. But he actually beats a double team there. That's a good job. Had that been a 5-step drop, or if he would have had to hitch maybe a half second longer, that's a sack. Good job there. All right, this was almost a really, really good play. It's a good play, but it was almost excellent. 2-by-2 set. This team comes out and max protects. They're protecting with 8 guys. They're only sending 2 guys out in a route. And we're only bringing 5, but you'll see we still get enough to pressure the ball. We still get a free man. Here comes our corner. Now you notice our will here, his read would be tight end to running back. They both stay in and block. He knows he only has one more threat. Go help out and make a play. Now we'd like for him to come across with that left hand, obviously. That's pretty athletic. Pretty smart football player there. From the end zone shot, you get a good look at it. Not a good move by our tackle here. He overshoots it. Granted, this was his first varsity action. He was a sophomore. First varsity action. Overshoots it just a little bit. Got a little bit too zealous. Doesn't take that guard with him because he gets passed along too quick. That guard does a nice job passing him off. Getting ready for the bandit. Bandit's movement is pretty good here. Notice he goes all the way from a 6-eye and tries to get, or he does get into that B gap, all the way from a 6-eye. So he crosses face. Needs to drop his hips just a little bit more. Even though they're 8-man protection there and we're only bringing 5, we still get a good look. All right. We got a little power scheme coming to the boundary. Normally that gives teams a lot of fits. This was a good first down play for this team. Here's what they're trying to do against us. They're trying to down block, veer release to our will. We're trying to get a down block here, and the center's trying to back block. Guard will pull and try to kick out our bandit. But you can see here our movement really throws them off. First we get that spike. He's reading low hat, so he's going to run heel line. He's going to close that B gap down for us. The bandit is, rather, going to close down the B gap. We'd like to see our tackle stay square here. However, the movement does help us. He pulls the guard with him. But you can see, because he's not square, because he turns those shoulders, that guard is able to give him just a little shove off, and he's out of the play. So we really want him to stay square. Get hands on that guard, stay square, pull that guard with him. Put his head in the A-gap. But he was a guy that we converted from O-line. We were kind of in a pinch. So he's really just out there. Somebody told him to get to the A-gap. Here's where the +1 really helps us out. They would draw this play up, perfect situation. This tackle's able to release to our will, kick out on the bandit. Guard pulls around for the kick out. But because of our movement, now we got our +1. The guard has no idea who to block. He's thinking now. Now we've made him think, and we all know what happens when our players start thinking, they waste themselves. So that's a wasted block for us. He ends up blocking nobody. Our will's able to fill that gap pretty nicely. We'd like for him to stay lower, drive that foot. See, at contact here, our will has his right foot in the air. We'd like for him to get that foot down. He's more powerful. But you can see, I think I've got 7 or 8 guys to the ball there. Even though the play's almost over, there's my nose guard getting to the ball. Really high-intensity defense there. All right, as I talked about earlier, we squeeze everything with our defensive line. We want teams to run outside on us. So this is a good example of how this squeeze technique complements, or however, how our squeeze technique is complemented by this movement. So you can see this tight end. Against a tight end, we normally line up in a 6. So you see this tight end, he's anticipating squeeze, and his first step is actually with his right foot. He's anticipating squeeze from the bandit. Completely whiffs on him. Now this is where you kind of let your guys play football. Here comes our bandit. He runs heel line. I'd like for that heel line transition to be a little bit more smooth. Keep his head up and make a play. He runs heel line, comes all the way down and makes a play for us. All the way down the line of scrimmage. Tackle's movement is pretty good. He's a little high. a little tall. He gets washed a little bit, but our bandit makes up for him. Mike does a good job of coming across the play and fitting into an open gap. Mike, linebacker, he gets a clear gap read on this A gap, but as that gap closes, he's able to bounce shuffle into the opposite gap, and he makes a good play for us as well. All right, I talked a little bit about letting your guys kind of play with their alignment. If you're a coach and you look at this at first, you're saying, what in the world is our bandit doing? And in film review and on our sideline replay, I said the same thing. What in the world is he doing? This makes no sense. He should be in a 5. He's lined up in almost a 3. And I asked him in our film session later that week, that Saturday morning, why are you lined up there? If you'll notice, this guy's not a little guy. Our bandit's not little. He's 6'3", 230. And this tackle makes him look, he almost dwarfs him. So what our guy was thinking here was, I've got to get into the B gap. This guy's arms are long. He's humongous. If I don't get into the B gap, we're out of luck. We're in trouble. So what our bandit does here, and this is where you kind of give guys freedom and let them make choices. He's in the B gap right now. He's not going to get pushed out of that B gap. So because we let him play around with his alignment a little bit and be a football player, he occupies 3 blocks. There's 1, 2, and then the guy who tried to cut him, 3 blocks. You can see our corner coming back into the screen does a good job of flattening his route. He's keeping that ball carrier on his inside shoulder. Our will is now able to scrape and be free. However, I don't know why our will is bouncing this outside so quickly. Would like to see our will stay in tight here a little bit. There we go. Bandit takes up 3 blocks. Our Mike's able to scrape over. This is really good just being a football player here from our nose guard. He's able to come back to the ball, make a good, strong hit. Good tackle there. This tackle, he obviously gets washed. He goes way too far down underneath. You see his shoulders are turned. That's part of being young. He's only like 14 years old as a sophomore. So he's young, a little bit inexperienced, played with his head down. He didn't make too many more mistakes after this one. He's going to be a good player. Another good example of our bandit running heel line. And then our end, this really doesn't have anything to do with the blitz, but our end plays this really well. You can see he's fully engaged with his hips on this tight end. He actually locks him out. He's able to play both gaps now. Our end is in a position where he can, if the ball carrier moves inside, he can go B gap. Ball carrier stays outside, he can throw this guy off and go outside. Defensive end does a really nice job. He's got leverage, pushing him back, leverage, creating a new line of scrimmage, spill that guard. So he's able to not only get rid of a tight end, but also spill. Now Mike does a good job of filling that gap, staying square to the line, coming on down, matching the running back on his inside hip. Boom. Good play. Go to the end zone shot to get a look at that spike technique. Would like to see him getting a little bit better stance, but he's able to beat this guy across his face. Decent little rip, not where we need it to be, but he reads action away. That guard pulls. He's running heel line right now. Almost runs him down. Actually gets pushed off by the Will who makes the play. All right, end zone shot here. We're seeing a little bit of a split zone scheme. This offensive tackle here is going to throw us off a little bit. But this is a good example of how that squeeze technique that we normally use is complemented by this movement. What they're trying to do is run a little bit of a split zone scheme. Zone, 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 come on back, try to kick out. That usually doesn't work very well against us because we squeeze so heavily. What you're going to notice here is this tackle's footwork. I'm not sure if this was intentional or not, or if he's coached to try to invite the bandit upfield, but it's definitely not a zone step. What I'm thinking is that he's anticipating squeeze from the bandit and is trying to at least get some hands on him. but he's beat off the first step. And you can see this guy is not small by any means. Our bandit, like I said, is 5'8"-ish, 5'9"-ish, 170 pounds. But he beats him on that first little step. Maybe that's a tackle anticipating a squeeze, maybe a catch step. But he's already beat. He runs heel line. If this quarterback were to pull, we have actually a +1 on him with our corner. Our young guy does a nice job here. If you look at our play side nose guard, he does a really nice job. Engages the double team, splits it, keeps his hips down low, and makes a play. Good movement from our tackle. Good movement from our tackle here. Hands on the guard. He can read him. If this play were to go A-gap, our tackle can now get off, get his head in that A-gap. He closes it with that movement. That's a really good job. He makes a new line of scrimmage, closes that A-gap with his movement. Ball carrier has to bounce to our nose guard who just beat a double team. And there's 17 in on the play as usual. He's going to be a player. All right, this is the last clip I'm going to show for our boundary corner blitz. You're going to look at this and it's going to be a 4-yard gain. You're going to say, why is he including a clip of a 4-yard gain? But everything goes right here for us. They just catch us in a really bad play. They run the perfect play, or what should be a good play, against this pressure. But because nobody accounts for the corner, well, you'll just see, because nobody accounts for the corner, we're able to make a play, what should have been a touchdown. They should have scored on this play, or at least got a decent gain, at least 10 or so. It should have been an explosive play. But because nobody accounts for the corner, we're able to save face and hold him to just 4 yards. They're going to run a toss, an overload toss sweep into the boundary here. And they've got us outflanked. They've got us outnumbered. But I don't know of a lot of offensive coordinators who account for a boundary blitz. A corner blitz from the boundary when they draw up their blocking schemes. Receiver even notices. That's a smart receiver. He notices the stem. He points him out. As an offensive coordinator, you hope your guys would adjust to this and be able to make an adjustment on the fly. You would hope, I would tell my receiver to go ahead and move to the linebacker. If the corner goes away, move to linebacker. Fullback should block first, guy that shows, but these guys don't do this. Makes it an even better play that this is our arch rival that they should have scored, but they didn't. They had an opportunity and didn't capitalize. You can see their coach over here pretty fired up, as he should be. Like I said, this should have been a big play, but because we get the +1 and nobody accounts for a blitzing corner, we're in good shape here. I'll take bad play call, perfect play against us, and we only allow 4. Better tackling technique here would have probably gotten them for a no gain. So you can see nobody even looks to the corner. Fullback's eyes are here on the safety. This fullback is on our backer. Here comes our corner just in time to disrupt this play a little bit. Nobody's able to account for him. So what should have been a bigger play, what should have been possibly a touchdown, is held to just a 4-yard gain. All right, so we've shown a lot of film of the actual pressure itself. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the illusion off of it. Like I said, we're playing a hard cover 2 behind this. Our corner's going to become a hard flat player. Rover's going to be over top. We still accomplish what we want to accomplish, but we can take away that hot read. So you see him start to creep in. The wide receiver's actually pointing at him. Now this is a really well-coached team that we're playing against, district rival. So I'm under the impression they had the hot read built in right now. You don't get the ball, throw it up. So we take away the hot read. You can see him kind of stutter step a little bit. They throw it up to him. We got a guy over top. So you can see where the illusion made them think they had a hot read right now. Quarterback even kind of hitches just a little bit as if he wants to throw that. See, he kind of stutter steps. Our guy over top almost picks this off. Good job by their receiver becoming a defender. All right, we'll look at our next clip. This is a good example of how running that illusion accomplishes almost the same thing as running the pressure itself. So you can see our guy creep in. He can't be blocked. He had his back turned to the wide receiver. Now the wide receiver could probably adjust and block him now. I'd like for our corner to not backpedal on this. He's backpedaling a little bit just to sink, but he's getting a run read. He can go ahead and play flat. He's playing a sink technique. If he gets a pass read, he misreads this just a little bit. But still, you see how we're squeezing and spilling everything. There's our bandit squeezing. Squeeze that tackle, spill the guard. Nice scrape from our Will. Our Will is free, so he's able to scrape. Will takes a nice inside fit on this pulling tackle, or sniffer. We're going to bounce out to our unblocked corner. Good play there. See, we're squeezing, spilling, inside fit, unblocked corner. Nobody accounts for the corner in the run game. Guys, I appreciate you all watching. That's all I've got for the Boundary Corner Blitz. If you have any further questions, you're more than free to contact me. My contact info, my email, my Twitter handle is all on the first slide. Thank you all for watching.